Hey guys, Nick Kellar, Greg Brock, Atlas Premier Realty, coming to you with another video blog. Today we actually wanted to talk about something that's a little more on the basic side of things, but it's come up recently with some clients and friends of ours. So we thought it was important to share, maybe dispel some myths and rumors and things that just aren't necessarily full truths with this particular topic. And that is buyer agency. So we're just going to touch base and scratch the surface on that and just jump right into it. So what is buyer agency, Greg?
So the long and short of it is essentially that a buyer agency agreement or buyer agency is just an agreement between a brokerage and an agent and a specific buyer that they have terms that they're going to work specifically with each other. And that is a true agreement that they're going to work on the buyer's best interest.
Right.
So
it's a formal agreement with a timeline, a cancellation clause. All of them have cancellation clauses, and just overall expectations in terms as to how they're going to interact and work with one another.
Absolutely.
Cool. How much does buyer agency cost? Because we've heard this all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, with the instance that came up is we couldn't afford you guys. We didn't think we could afford you guys, and there's not the full truth with that. So.
Sure. Yeah. So the first myth is that they can't afford us, and in reality, on the buyer side, it costs you little amount of money in the grand scheme of things to work with a real estate broker, as long as we find you a home that we can get our commission paid for by the seller's agent. That being said, it can cost anywhere from a couple $100 up to $1,000, and you won't pay anything until the time of settlement in our scenario. Now, there's different rules for every brokerage. And the second myth is that it costs you nothing. Like I just said, it costs you as little as a couple $100 up to $1,000, depending on the brokerage that you're working with.
Yep. And just how that works is that a seller, when they hire a listing agent, they negotiate a total commission. And the pay to a buyer's agent comes from the seller's broker, the listing agent.
Right.
They usually break off whatever is in total commission for the buyer's agent.
Correct.
It doesn't come from the seller directly. It comes from the listing broker.
Correct.
Okay. So why is buyer agency recommended then?
Well, you get a professional on your side who has extensive experience, is in the real estate market on a day-to-day basis, and has extensive market knowledge to know where to position you and where to put your offer to get you the best deal possible.
Yeah. So it's basically protecting your best interest, positioning you so that you can make the best decisions. Let's not forget, this is a business decision. Buying a house is a business decision. Insulating you from any emotion involved in that business, and business decisions and emotion or oil and water, they don't mix very well. And then also, even if you're a seasoned buyer, buyer agency is helpful because likely you're not doing this every day, every year. You've done it a couple times in your life. It's also helpful to have the experiences and perspective of somebody that does do it every day to bounce that off of, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Awesome. And then a lot of people sometimes say, will I get a better deal just going directly to the listing agent and cutting out the buyer's agent, and hopefully they'll pass on the savings?
So definitely a myth here, and the reason is like Nick alluded to earlier, the seller and the seller's broker has already negotiated and under contract to pay the seller's broker a commission. And if there's no buyer agent involved, that whole commission will go to the seller's broker. So in a scenario that you're coming in and using a buyer's agent, all you're essentially doing is getting representation, and the seller's broker is going to pay for that commission.
Right. And the listing agent is typically hired to do what?
Work in the best interest of the seller.
Which isn't necessarily to get you a better deal as the buyer. It's to help protect and get the seller the best deals. So while it sounds like it might be it might work out. It couldn't be further from the truth.
Correct.
And then it's also important, I'll add to this, it's also important to realize that buyer agency works in a for sale by owner situation. A lot of for sale by owners, because they want the exposure to the agent community, are willing to work with a buyer's agent, and also new construction.
Correct.
So again, the sales rep that sits in the model, they're hired by the builder to work in the builder's best interest. So when they're sitting down and doing all the paper, while they're friendly, they're also looking out for the builder's best interest, not necessarily yours. So it also works in that scenario as well.
Yeah, and the builder is always going to have that commission built into their numbers. So whether you come with an agent or not, it doesn't affect the best negotiation that you can get out of them. And in addition, you can lean on your agent who has probably been through this with multiple clients in the past to help and make sure that the builder is staying on pace, and you can use them to check in on it along the way.
Right. Awesome. So hopefully that's cleared up any misnomers, dispelled any myths about it. But of course, as always, if you have any questions, if you need any more information, or you know somebody who does, feel free to share the video or contact any one of us at Atlas. We'd be happy to help.
Absolutely.
We appreciate your support. We appreciate you watching our videos, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks a lot.